The night was quiet on planet Arellon. 2 silver moons floated in the dark sky. Stars blinked slowly, like they were watching from far away. The wind was soft, carrying the smell of glowing blue flowers. Rayan, a young human explorer, walked alone through the ruins. His boots crunched softly on the ancient stone floor. Tall broken pillars stood around him, covered in green moss and strange symbols. He was not supposed to be here, not this far from his crew. But something had pulled him in like a voice calling from deep inside. Then he saw her. She stood at the center of the ruins, under the moonlight. Her skin was light silver, her hair like liquid night, and her eyes glowed a soft violet. She was not human, but she was not scary either. She looked calm, almost sad. "You're lost," she said, her voice soft and smooth. Rayan took a step forward. "Who are you?" she smiled. "Just a girl, maybe a ghost, maybe a dream." He frowned. "That's not an answer." She laughed quietly. "Then don't ask questions you don't want answers to." Her name was Zira. She said she was the last of her kind. She didn't explain what that meant, but Rayan could feel something powerful in her. Not dangerous, just old, like the ruins. They talked for a while about stars, about time, about why humans always wanted more. Then she said something strange. "If you want me, Rayan," she said, her eyes shining brighter, "bring me the rarest flower in this galaxy." He raised an eyebrow. "The rarest flower?" "Yes. It's called the Heart of Stars. It blooms once every 1,000 years. Deep in the shadows of forgotten worlds." Rayan laughed. "And if I find it?" Zura tilted her head, then smiled. "That kind of smile that hides 1,000 secrets? Then I'll be yours," she whispered. There was silence. A long silence. Rayan looked at her, trying to read her face. Was it a joke? Was she serious? But before he could ask, Zura stepped back into the shadows. And then she was gone. Just like that, the wind picked up. The ruins became quiet again. Too quiet. Rayan stayed there for a while, unsure of what just happened. His hand touched the stone where she had stood. There, carved deep in the rock, was a symbol. A flower with 5 glowing petals and a heart-shaped center. His palm began to tingle. Later, back at his ship, Rayan tried to sleep, but he kept seeing her face, her eyes, that strange smile, the name of the flower, its Heart of Stars. It echoed in his head. He couldn't stop thinking about it. Was she real? Was it all a trick? He checked the database of his ship. Thousands of flowers across thousands of worlds, but none with that name. Then something strange happened. His personal locker, locked with a digital code, was open. Inside, he found an old, folded map. It wasn't his. He'd never seen it before. When he opened it, his eyes widened. It was hand-drawn, ancient-looking. And in the center of the map, written in strange glowing ink, was the same symbol, the flower with 5 petals. Underneath, one word, "Find me." Rayan felt his heart race. How did this map get into his ship? Who left it? He heard a sound behind him, a soft whisper, like a breeze. "You're getting closer," the voice said. It was Zura's voice, but no one was there. He stood frozen. For a moment, then slowly, he smiled. This was no joke. And Jaura. She was no ordinary girl. Maybe it was madness. Maybe it was fate. But one thing was clear to Rayan. Now he was going to find that flower, no matter where it was, no matter what it cost. Because deep inside, he knew Zura wasn't playing games. And the moment she said, "I'll be yours," she meant every word. The rarest flower in the galaxy had become more than a quest. It had become a promise. And Rayan was not the kind of man to break a promise, even to an alien girl who vanished into shadows. Rayan couldn't stop staring at the map. He had spread it out on the small desk in his sleeping pod, the dim blue light above him flickering like a nervous heartbeat. The paper looked ancient, too old to survive this far into the space age, but it didn't crumble when he touched it. The lines were drawn by hand, not machine. Strange curves and glowing runes traced out sectors of the galaxy he'd never seen before. His fingers paused on the glowing flower. Symbol, same as the one carved in the ruins, same as the one Zura had. Spoken of, he should have thrown it away. Locked it. Burned it. Anything but what he was about to do. But he couldn't forget her face, the way her voice sank into his bones when she whispered, "Find me the rarest flower." Maybe it was the way she vanished. Maybe it was the way the map just appeared. Or maybe something had already begun changing inside him the next morning. Before the ship's artificial sun could rise, Rayhan downloaded the base logs and rerouted his authorization codes. It wasn't hard. He had done things like this during Scout training, though never for anything so personal. He wasn't going to tell the crew. They'd stop him, call him obsessed. Or worse, mad. So he launched quietly. A one-man pod, small and fast, equipped with stealth mode. It took him only an hour. To break free from orbit, planet Arellan was just a glowing marble behind him now. The head was the place the map had marked with strange red ink, an unregistered sector deep in uncharted space. No name, no record, only the flower symbol, glowing like a warning. He jumped into light speed. That's when the dreams started. At first, they were simple, a voice calling to him, gentle like wind through leaves. Sometimes it sounded like Zura. Other times it was something older, darker like the ruins themselves had learned to speak. Then came the images. Stars bending in strange shapes, planets with cracked faces, oceans filled with glowing roots, and always that flower, the heart of stars. It floated in front of him in every dream, its petals unfolding slowly, like time itself was stretching open. But when he awoke, he couldn't remember where he'd seen it. After 3 jumps, his pod hit turbulence. The stars around him blinked out for a moment, like someone had switched off the sky. Then red lights filled the cabin. His ship was being pulled, dragged into a gravity field. Alarms blared. The map on his screen flickered, then vanished, and suddenly he was falling, not through space, but through something else. A kind of shadow, dark, quiet, endless. The ship crash-landed on a surface that wasn't listed on any charts. When the smoke cleared, Rayan looked out the cockpit window and saw something impossible. The planet outside was alive, not just alive in the way most planets are aware. Water, plants, but aware. The trees swayed before the wind touched them. The sky changed color depending on his thoughts, and strange tall flowers seemed to watch him as he stepped out of the pod. This place had no name, but Rayan knew it was the right place. The map had brought him here for a reason. He walked for hours. The air smelled sweet, almost too perfect. The ground pulsed slightly under his boots, like the whole planet had a heartbeat. He found ruins older than any he'd seen before. Not human, it's not alien, just ancient. They seemed grown, not built. Twisted towers of glass and vines reached for the sky, humming quietly. Symbols danced along their surfaces, none he could read, but all strangely familiar. Then he saw her not Zura, but a statue of her. Perfect, down to the curve of her smile and the softness in her eyes. It stood in the center of a round clearing. Around her feet were carvings of petals. 5 glowing petals just like the flower beneath the statue. Words etched in broken galactic common. Only the true seeker may find the bloom. Many came. All lost. Only the one who listens survives. Rayan stepped back, heart pounding. Others had come before him. Were they sent by her too? Why? He turned quickly as something moved behind him. Out from the thick mist came a creature, tall, thin, and shimmering like smoke. It didn't speak, not with words. But he felt its message burn into his mind. She tests all who follow her call. You are not the first, you may not be the last, but you are different. The creature vanished before he could speak. He stood there. For a long time, breathing heavy, Zura had said it like a joke. Find me the rarest flower, and I'll be yours. But this was no game. Someone had died here, maybe many, and yet, Something told him to keep going. He reached into his pocket and felt the map again, still warm, still glowing, still whispering one word: closer. The sky was the wrong color. Ryan stood beneath a canopy of deep violet clouds that moved against the wind. The air here was heavier, like the planet was watching him, pressing down just enough to remind him he didn't belong. His ship was broken. Behind him, half swallowed by glowing vines that moved when he wasn't looking. Every step forward felt like a test. He didn't know the name of this world, no one did, but he was sure now. This was the place Zura's map had led. Him too, the place where the flower bloomed, or so the legend said. He walked through a forest unlike anything he'd ever seen. The trees were tall and thin, with white bark that pulsed like veins. Their leaves shimmered between colors green, blue, red, never staying the same. Time he blinked, the forest changed just a little. Once, he thought he saw someone behind. Him, a shadow, human-shaped. But when he turned, there was nothing there. Then he heard the laughter. Not loud, not cruel, just soft, familiar. Cura. He spun around, scanning the twisted trees. Azura! He called out. Nothing, just wind. And yet the laughter stayed with him. Like it had settled into his bones, he kept walking, guided only by instinct. There was no path. The map was useless now. But the deeper he went, the more he felt pulled forward, as if something ahead was waiting for him. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time didn't feel normal here. Eventually the forest opened. A wide valley stretched before him, covered in soft white grass that glowed gently in the dark. Floating stones hovered above the ground, rotating slowly as if held by invisible hands. In the center of the valley stood something incredible. A tree. But not like any tree he had ever seen. It was massive, taller than a star cruiser with crystal. Branches that reached into the sky like frozen lightning. Its bark was black glass, cracked with lines of soft golden light. At the base of the tree, flowers grew, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Each one had 5 glowing petals and a heart-shaped center. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. He had found them, the heart of stars. But something was wrong. They weren't blooming. The petals were closed, tight like fists. The light inside them was dim. It was as if they were waiting for something or someone. He stepped forward, careful not to crush the grass, as he reached the base of the tree. The wind stopped completely. The world went silent, and then the ground opened. No warning, no time to react. One moment he was reaching for the nearest flower. The next, the earth vanished beneath him, and he was falling fast through a tunnel of light and shadow. When he hit the ground, black. He opened his eyes in a different place. Still the same planet, but not the same world above him.
Oh, the sky was silver?
The stars were wrong. They moved too fast, circling like they were caught in a storm. Around him were ruins more ancient than the ones on Arellan. But these were not broken. They were alive. The walls breathed slowly. Strange lights floated between columns. And in the center of it all, sitting silently on a stone throne, was another figure. Not Zura. Not human. The figure was tall, with no face. A smooth helmet covered its head, and its body was made of metal and bone. It watched Ryan for a long time before speaking. "Why do you seek the flower?" Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Ryan stood, brushing dust off his jacket. "To find someone? Or to prove something?" the voice asked. "I don't care about proving anything." The figure rose. "You lie." It stepped closer, and with each step, Ryan saw flashes, visions, memories that weren't his. A man screaming as a petal closed around him. A woman turning to stone with a flower in her hands. A child floating in. Space, eyes glowing, whispering Zura's name. "How many were sent before you?" the voice asked. How many failed? Ryan didn't know. He didn't want to know. "I don't care about the others," he said. "I'm not here for the flower. I'm here for her." The air grew colder. The flower is not a prize. It is a gate. A gate to what? The figure didn't answer. Instead, it reached into the air and pulled out a small petal. It floated between them, spinning slowly. "Take it and see." Rayan hesitated, but only for a moment. He reached out as soon as his fingers touched the petal. His vision exploded. Light poured into his eyes. Fire, stars, endless voices speaking at once. And in the middle of it, Alsura's face, she was crying, not from sadness, from fear. Her voice broke through the chaos. "You're getting too close, Rayan. You don't know what you're waking up." Then she was gone, and he was alone again, standing in the valley, the tree behind him. The flowers still closed, but in his hand he now held a reel. Petal glowing, warm alive, and he understood. Now the search wasn't just about the flower. It was about something much bigger, something buried, something locked, and he had just taken the key. The petal wouldn't stop glowing no matter where Rayan put it in his pocket. In his hand, even wrapped tightly inside cloth, it pulsed like a heartbeat, soft, steady, alive, as if it was listening, as if it was watching. He hadn't slept. Since the vision. Every time he tossed his eyes, he saw Zira's face, her eyes wide with fear. Her voice not playful anymore, but shaken. "You don't know what you're waking up." The way she'd said it, Tit, wasn't for him. It wasn't about him. It was a warning to the galaxy, and yet she had led him here. He didn't understand why ask for the flower if finding it was so dangerous. Why leave the map? Why appear in the ruins at all? He needed answers, and the only place to find them now was forward. The petal seemed to know where to go. As he walked, it grew warmer in his hand, guiding him like a compass. He left the valley behind. The crystal tree faded into the fog, the closed flowers glowing quietly behind him. None had bloomed. Not yet. What waited beyond the ridge was nothing like the forest or the valley. It was a graveyard. Metal bones stretched across the cracked land-broken ships. Half buried in dirt, shattered pieces of armor, helmets covered in dust. Some were human, some not. The wind blew softly, but no sound came. Like the planet had stolen even the echoes. He walked between the wreckage slowly, eyes scanning each ruined vessel. Some looked centuries old, some only weeks. All had strange markings scorched into their sides, the same 5-petal flower symbol, burned into the holes like a curse. He knelt beside a torn scout suit, the body still inside. The chest plate was cracked open, but one hand was reaching forward, stretched toward something. Rayan followed the direction of the outstretched hand. Just beyond, half hidden in the dirt, was a message carved into stone. "She lied to us," that was all 3 words. They echoed louder than any scream. He stood there for a long time, reading them over and over. Who wrote them? One of the dead. A survivor who never made it out. Was it even about Zura? He didn't want to believe it, but the more he saw, the harder it was to deny. The map, the petal, the dreams, the crash. The voice in his mind. The others who had come before him, all chasing the same flower. All left here to rot. Was he just another fool in a long line of fools? Or had Zura chosen him for a reason? The wind changed. Something moved in the distance. He turned. There at the edge of the wreckage stood another person alive. She wore a tattered black suit, armor patched with cloth and crystal. Her hair was wild, her eyes sunken, but alert. She held a sharp, curved blade and didn't move. Rayan raised both hands. "I'm not here to fight." She stared for a moment, then spoke. "You have a piece of it?" He nodded slowly. "The petal, put it away," she said. "If you want to live." Rayan didn't move. "Who are you?" he asked. She walked closer, never taking her eyes off the petal. "I was one of the Seekers, same as you." Same promise. From Zura. She flinched when he said the name, like it hurt. "Don't speak it here," she hissed. "This planet listens." He finally slipped the petal back into his pocket. Its light faded, but he could still feel its warmth against his leg. The woman relaxed barely. "My name was Lyra. I came here 6 years ago." Rayan blinked. "It's not possible." The first map was found only time doesn't work. Here, she interrupted. It loops. It twists. You could leave now and arrive back before you left. He stared at her, not sure if she was crazy or if this place truly broke the rules of reality. Did you find it? He asked. The flower Lyra looked away. I found the truth. She pointed behind her, toward a dark cave glowing with faint blue light. She's inside, waiting, watching, feeding. Feeding? Rayan asked, confused. Lyra nodded slowly. Every seeker carries something inside them. Hope, love, hunger, whatever brought you here. She uses it. She doesn't want the flower. She is the flower. The air dropped 10 degrees. Rayan's mouth went dry. That doesn't make sense, he whispered. It's not supposed to, she said. She's not like us. She's a living key, a test, a guardian, or maybe just a mirror. I don't know anymore. I only know one thing. What's that? No one leaves once they see her real form. Rayan looked toward the cave. He thought of Zura, standing in the moonlight, smiling like she had no secrets. He thought of her eyes when she vanished. It's not cold, not cruel, sad. She didn't want to do this. He was sure of it. Whatever she was, she used to be some part of her still remembered being more than just a test. He stepped past Lyra. You're making a mistake, she said behind him. Maybe, Rayan answered, without stopping. But if she sent me here, then I need to know why. He walked into the cave. No hesitation, just the sound of his footsteps and the slow return of a familiar voice. Zura, it's whispering. You're almost there. The cave swallowed the light behind him. One step inside. And Rayan couldn't see the wreckage, or the stars, or even the sky. The outside world disappeared like it had never existed. Only the sound of his breath remained, loud in the silence. He reached out to touch the wall cold, smooth and almost soft, like stone wrapped in skin. The deeper he went, the less real everything felt. There was no wind, no air current, yet somehow he kept moving downward. He couldn't tell if his feet were walking or if the cave was pulling him. The petal in his pocket began to glow again, not gently. Now it pulsed faster. Urgent, alive, the tunnel curved like a spiral. With each turn, the darkness shifted. It began to change color purple, then red, then deep ocean blue. At one point, he reached a chamber where the walls were mirrors. But they didn't show him, they showed others, other humans, other seekers, all. Of them holding petals. One man screamed as his petal turned, black and sank into his skin. Another woman laughed wildly before she vanished into a wall of light, in the last reflection. He saw himself, but not how he was. His mirrored self looked older, worn. His eyes were empty. Like someone who had seen too much and forgotten why he started. He looked away. The whispers began after that, voices he knew. Voices he didn't. Some called his name gently. Some screamed. It. One voice whispered from deep inside his own skull. Turn around, before you forget who you are. But he didn't. He couldn't. At the center of the cave. Now the tunnel ended. He stepped into a vast open space too large to fit inside any mountain, yet somehow buried under the planet. The floor was made of glass, and under it was a swirling sea of stars, like walking on the skin of a galaxy. Above him, floating mid-air, was Zura, or something that looked like her. She glowed with soft silver light, hair flowing upward like she was underwater. Her eyes were closed, her arms stretched outward, and her entire body was wrapped in thin strands of energy, like roots, like threads. Like chains, or Ryan stepped forward, breath caught in his throat. Zura, he whispered. Her eyes opened, and in that moment, time shattered. He wasn't standing in the cave anymore. He was back on Earth, on the rooftop of the Science Academy, where he trained. Under the night sky, sitting alone as rain tapped gently on the metal panels, his younger self sat beside him, quiet, lonely. The boy looked up at him and said, You've always wanted to be needed, haven't you? The scene flickered. Now he was aboard his first ship, standing at attention, surrounded by people who barely noticed him. A ghost in uniform, shadow in motion. Then the academy again. Then his childhood bedroom. Then the silence of deep space. Flicker, flicker, flicker. CUR. A single quote's echoed through each memory. You don't chase the flower because of me. You chase it because of what's missing inside you. He clenched his fists. You brought me here. You gave me the map. I showed you the path, she said softly. But the flower shows you yourself. The world shifted again. He was in a room with no doors, no windows. Only mirrors. Every mirror showed a version of him. Some angry, some afraid. One was begging on his knees. One was laughing. Holding the flower high like a trophy, one had no face. He stumbled back. What is this? He shouted. The trial, Zura's voice whispered. No one finds the heart of stars until they pass through the trial of the mind. This isn't a test, he said. It's torture. Silence. Then her voice changed. Not soft, not gentle, something ancient. If you turn back now, you will remember none of this. You will wake up on your ship, far from this place. You'll go home. Safe. Unchanged. The petal will vanish. The memory of me. Gone. Rayon looked around. Every version of him now stood still in the mirrors, watching, waiting. And if I go? Forward. Zura's form flickered in the distance. You will lose something. Maybe yourself. Maybe more. All. But you'll reach the truth. We'll see what I am. Rayon stared at the mirror with the laughing version of himself. I don't want to be that, he said. He stepped forward. Ignoring the rest, straight toward the mirror with the faceless version, and he shattered it with one punch. The room exploded into light. When the brightness faded, he was kneeling on the glass floor again. Under the floating image of Zira, her eyes were open now, not glowing, but full of sorrow. You passed, she said. I didn't win, he whispered. There is no winning, only seeing. He reached into his pocket. The petal had bloomed, fully open, its 5 glowing arms reaching outward, and in its heart, a reflection of Zura's face. Only now he saw the truth. She was the flower, not a woman, not a ghost, not a test. She was a lock, and he had just become the key. He didn't feel his body anymore, not in the way he used to. There was weight, yes, there was breath. But his hands no longer felt like hands. His legs moved, but the ground beneath them felt distant, like walking through someone else's memory. The petal in his palm had become a full bloom now, bright and warm, humming softly like it knew it had finally been seen. And Zerone, no longer floating, no longer silent, stood before him, fully formed. Not a vision, not a dream. She looked almost human. Almost her skin still carried that strange silver shimmer, and her hair waved gently, though there was no wind. But the biggest change was in her eyes. They were not glowing anymore. They were real, and they were filled with something he hadn't seen in her before. Fear. She stepped toward him, barefoot on the glass floor, her hands clasped together like she was afraid of what he might do next. I didn't want you to make it this far, she said. Rayon blinked. Then why send the map? Why call me? Because I had to. Because I'm bound, built, programmed. Whatever word you choose, it doesn't change what I am. His throat felt dry. You're not real? AM. But not how you understand real. Her voice trembled. Not in fear of him, but in guilt. I was made to test, to tempt, to pull those who carry a certain ... spark, the kind of person who runs toward questions instead of away from them. I was the bait, the prize, the warning. Why? He asked, stepping closer. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned, and the world around them shifted again. The glass floor cracked and peeled away. The sky above turned black, not night, the void beyond stars. They now stood in a chamber built from light and memory. Massive glowing pillars hovered in circles. Each one held an object. Helmets, books, weapons, small pieces of flowers' remnants. Of those who had come before, a floating archive of failure. Dozens, maybe hundreds. All seekers, all dreamers. All lost. I told them the same thing I told you, Zura said. Some came for love, some for power, some just to prove they could. Me, you came for a reason you don't even fully understand. She turned back to him. You came because part of you always felt broken, and part of you thought, maybe I could fix it. Rayon swallowed hard. She was right. He had always felt like a shadow, even among his own kind, invisible, forgettable. But with her, he had felt chosen, seen, pulled into something bigger than himself. So I'm just another name on the wall. No, she said quickly. You're different. How? Because you didn't try to own me or the flower. You didn't try to solve me like a puzzle. You came looking for me, not for the prize. That's why you saw what the others never did. He looked around at the floating remains. What happened to them? They failed the trial. They either turned back or broke. Rayan took a deep breath. So what happens now? Zura lowered her head. Now you choose. Choose. What? To give me the bloom, she said, and opened the gate. He didn't move, and what's behind it? She hesitated. Then she raised her hand. The space around them tore open quietly like paper. Beyond it was something massive, something pulsing. A dark root system, spreading across space like veins, wrapped around a cold, dying star. Giant. Machines were trapped in the root's enchant, broken things. They blinked once every few seconds like they were asleep but dreaming. And in the center of it all, a core, a glowing sphere that beat like a heart. This, Zora said, is the seed. Rayan could barely speak. What is it? My origin, my prison, my creator, my destroyer. I'm not sure anymore. She turned to him, eyes filled with something he hadn't expected, loneliness. I was designed to guard it, to feed it when needed. But it's growing unstable. If it breaks open, if the seal fails, what sleeps inside will wake. Rayan's chest tightened. A weapon? Zira shook her head. No, a god, or something older than gods, being made of collapsed time and broken light, something that wants to rewrite existence from the first breath. He stepped back, stunned. But you brought me here, to stop it. No, to decide. You can give me the bloom, and I'll have the power to destroy the seed forever. But if you do, you will lose everything that brought you here. All your memories, your mission, even your name. And if I keep the bloom, the seal weakens. Slowly, maybe nothing happens for centuries. Maybe tomorrow. The silence between them stretched. Aaron looked down at the flower. It was no longer glowing. It was waiting. I don't want to forget you, he said quietly. Zura smiled softly. Sadly, then remember this moment. The feeling, the choice. She opened her hand. He placed the flower into her palm. A soft wind rose. Body began to glow again, but this time, not like before. She shone brighter than the stars behind her, as if the universe had remembered her true shape. She looked at him one last time. Thank you, she whispered, and then everything shattered into white. Silence, then breath, then light. He opened his eyes to a world he didn't recognize. Not at first. There were no stars, no ruins, no floating roots or glowing petals. Just a sky of soft gold and clouds that drifted without hurry. He was lying in a field of tall white grass, swaying gently around him like waves. The wind was warm, kind. The kind of warmth that didn't burn. The kind that held you. He sat up slowly. His hands were clean. No cuts, no burns, no dirt. Jacket was gone. Replaced with something simpler, soft fabric, unfamiliar. The air tasted like nothing and everything at once. He looked around. He was alone. There were no signs of a cave, no valley. No ancient shipwrecks or alien technology. No crystal tree, no Zura. Just him. And a small path in the grass. His legs moved. Before his mind did, step after step down that narrow trail, the only thing that felt real in this dreamlike place. He didn't know how long he walked. Time didn't exist here. Not like before. There was no sun above him, No changing shadows, just movement and stillness. Together at the end of the path was a single bench beneath a tree, and on the bench, folded neatly, was a small piece of paper. He sat down, unfolded it. There were only 3 words. You kept me. We stared at them. For a long time, he didn't understand them. Not completely, but something inside him. Something deeper than memory felt the shape of truth in those words, like a song he'd once heard in a dream. Familiar. Distant. He leaned back on the bench, his eyes closed. Images flickered behind his eyelids. A woman with silver skin and violet eyes. A glowing petal in the dark. A whisper under 2 moons. The ache in his chest wasn't pain. It was absence. He could feel the space where something had been. Or someone. But he couldn't name her. Couldn't picture her. Couldn't say why his heart beat faster when he tried. Still, he smiled. Somewhere a choice had been made. Somewhere, something dangerous had been buried again. Somewhere, something beautiful had bloomed one last time. And now, here he was, alive, whole maybe, but empty in places he couldn't see. Back on the main station orbiting Arrelin, a ship drifted into dock under an unregistered call sign. Small, old, one-man pod. No logs, no data trail. The crew ran scans. The pilot was human, physically healthy, mentally stable. But his ID chip was blank. No name, no records. When asked who he was, the man simply said, "I think I used to be someone." The crew let him stay. He worked in the maintenance bay. Quiet, kind, focused. People liked him. They just didn't know why sometimes. On breaks, he sat by the observation deck staring into the black sea of stars like he was waiting for something. Or someone. One night, a young officer sat beside him and asked, "Do you ever think we're meant for more than this?" He didn't answer at first, just looked down at his hands, and there,
Ow.
almost invisible, was the faint outline of a flower. 5 soft petals. A heart-shaped center. He touched it gently. "No," he said at last. "Think this is enough." Outside, 2 moons rose over Arrelin, and somewhere far beyond, deep beneath a world with no name, sleeping seed flickered quietly in the dark, still sealed, still dreaming, but no longer alone.